Welcome, folks, to Crypto News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka. Bitcoin looking good this Easter weekend. Definitely in the green. Not everything else is following along, however. On today's show, crypto shorts get wrecked. Why would you bet against the biddy? As Bitcoin rises following Trump attacked on loser Fed Chair Powell. Also, an excerpt from the Satoshi Papers, Self-Sovereignty and Political Philosophy, preaching the choir of Satoshi today. All this and so much more on today's show. Welcome, folks, to Crypto News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka, and we are going to be preaching the Gospel of Satoshi on this Easter Monday. We have the biddy in the green. I've changed my colors to orange because I've been orange pilled again, baby. I watched the price go up and up and up, and I was pretty impressed last night and into this morning. Things have kind of gone a bit sideways since, but I'm still quite happy with what's transpired and got me excited again, looking toward the banana zone and maybe some all-time highs coming up very soon. Let's get right into our market watch and Bitcoin technical analysis. The biddy right now over 88,000 bucks, up 1.5%. Really, it's up about 4% since yesterday. 88,300. Ethereum, poor Ethereum. Where are they going with this unlimited supply secondary coin? Currently down almost 2%, 1,583 bucks. Solana also down almost 2%, 138 bucks. XRP down 1%, $2.09. Doge up 1.3%, $1.16. Looking for the day. Just a little while ago, this entire thing was green, but right now, as it stands, let's check out the hourly. So everything in the past hour is up. So that's a good sign for a turning momentum. For the 24-hour period, we've got about a 50-50 mix. PLSX up, finding its way near the top again. Volume ranked, market cap ranked number 95, up almost 10. Pulse X, they had a big month last month. But look, for the year, they're sucking it, down 9%. Kaz up 10%. Hex up 5.5%. Mana up 3%. Fartcoin smelling up the percentage, 6.5% for the day. For the week, we've got STX Stacks, which was also up today. Look, for the hour, they're up 6%. What is this Stacks? Ranked number 60 market cap and up 10. I'm going to have to check it out for one of those type of coins that you might put a couple bucks in. Certainly not your stack, folks. But, 2% of your stack, 5%, maybe. See if you hit one of these big ones. It's a good thing to try, right? I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. Have your money in the Bitcoin. Let's be honest here. You want safety and long term, but additionally, you want to take a chance on one of these ish coins, and maybe you hit it big. Maybe you make a couple hundred. Maybe you make a couple 100,000% on these little shit coins. You never know. But take a couple percent here, a couple percent there. Maybe give them a try. Pretty good return for the week, 25%. For the day, 6.5%. For the hour, it's showing 5%, but if you zoom in, 5.2%. Let's zoom out to the monthly, and Fartcoin, stealing the show, up 117%. XCN, let's see if it makes a comeback. Onyx Coin, currently for the month, 55% in the green. I would say we've got close to a 50-50 mix for the green again. There was a time when it was 100% in the red, but now things have turned a little bit in the past while. All this U.S. tariff talk really tanked the whole industry and the traditional financial markets, everything except gold, as we'll see in a moment. The total current hash rate is way ahead of the Bitcoin price. So as we have said before, the price follows the hash. The hash is actually down substantially from the highs of a couple weeks ago, but we see the Bitty is moving up to meet it somewhere in the middle. The global M2 money supply, Bitcoin again following almost identically on the track of the M2 money supply in pink, Bitcoin in the white, and we see the final turn that the M2 has made at the end here is in the positive, and we are going to see this go up and up and up and up. The global money supply will be increasing this year substantially. Current crypto Bitty market cap, I should say, $1.75 trillion. Ethereum, 1.91 billion. Pardon me, 191 billion. XRP, 122 billion. Solana, 71 billion. Doge, 22 billion. Tron, 23 billion. Cardano, 22 billion. Total market cap, $2.72 trillion, with Bitcoin capturing 64.57% of that. Ethereum down even more. It's going to get under 6% soon. The exact amount right now is 7.03%. Ethereum dominance. XRP, exactly 4.5% dominance. Crypto Fear and Greed Index shows us that we're currently in a 39 in fear. Yesterday was a 37 in fear. Last week was a 31 in fear. We have approximately 1,087 days till the next Bitcoin halving 2028. There are 156,565 blocks left to mine until that time. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Gold just keeps on stacking, boy. Over $23 trillion total market cap. I read an article today saying that China in the past month purchased an additional 5 tons of gold in the past month. So we can see why this is going up. And soon there's going to be other countries that make announcements for Bitcoin, I believe. It might also be China coming up, and we will see the same kind of thing happen with the Bitcoin, I believe. So $23 trillion, way above anything else. Apple, $2.9 trillion. Microsoft, $2.7 trillion. Nvidia, $2.3. Silver, also making a move up in terms of market cap, $1.841 trillion. Jumping ahead of Bitcoin, Amazon, and Google. It was actually behind Saudi Aramco. It jumped 4 spots since I last looked 2 days ago. So unbelievable. Silver, $1.84 trillion in the number 5 position. Google, $1.8 trillion. Amazon, $1.775 trillion. Bitcoin, $1.738 trillion. Ready to move ahead of Amazon if things keep looking this way. Saudi Aramco, $1.6 trillion. Facebook, $1.2 trillion. You can currently get 1,032 Satoshis for 1 fiat US dollar. And the fiat national debt in the US keeps on ticking. It's going to be over 36 trillion, 37 trillion soon, everybody. Right now, exactly $36,755 billion, equaling to 107,420 per U.S. citizen or $323,049 per U.S. taxpayer. Our U.S. Doge, Department of Government Efficiency clock, shows us that Doge has saved the U.S. $345 billion or $3,069 per U.S. taxpayer since inception. Not bad for a bunch of geeks right out of school, right out of programming at school, it seems, and everybody's making fun of them. Well, you should stop because they just saved you $3,000. Not bad. Not bad at all. So, some big moves for the biddy, and there's going to be a point soon where Bitcoin is going to finally reap the rewards of all of this good news that's been happening over the past month that it hasn't been taking advantage of because of all this tariff talk. And let's face it, all this tariff stuff is good for Bitcoin. But it's been, it is part of a financial market. Let's face it, when people have excess money, generally when interest rates are low, people are going to put their money into more speculative assets like Bitcoin, like the stock market. When things are scary, people are going to put their money into gold and bonds. So this is exactly what we've seen. And additionally, more recently, everybody's losing confidence in the US dollar. So money's not even going into the bonds anymore. Money's going straight into gold. The money that was going to go into bonds, people are putting it into gold instead because they see that as a safe haven. They should also be seeing Bitcoin as a safe haven. And I feel like it's going to start happening soon. I think it already has. When we look at the whale activity, they've definitely been buying and buying and buying. And the wallets that own, 100 to 1,000 Bitcoin, the whales, as we call them, they've been buying like mad over the past few months while the price is in this relatively low period, far off of the all-time high. Still, 20,000 lower than the all-time high, and in fact it was almost $30,000 lower than the all-time high, running there for a few weeks during this whole Trump tariff initiation, about 2 weeks ago when he put a tariff on everybody and then canceled it a few hours later. So that whole week or 2 weeks even, it was really hovering around that 76 to 82 range, so $30,000 below the all-time high. And these whales, their eyes opened up like, damn, this is a flippin' discount, right? They were buying it. Everybody else was running the other way because I've said it before, as usual, if there's a sale at Best Buy, everybody lines up, hundreds of people long. And when there's a sale on the stock market or on crypto, nobody's buying anything. It just does not make sense. You want to buy the flippin' dip, right? Price is low. That's when you want to buy it. Some people, though, didn't have the respect for the biddy. They felt like it was going to keep losing. Maybe they don't know much about it. Maybe they need to learn a little more. So instead, they were shorting the Bitcoin. And we know, we who watch this show, we who follow Bitcoin, we who've been in this, looking at these numbers for months and years, know that you do not short the Bitcoin on a time like this, especially not the year after the halving. But a lot of people did, and crypto shorts got wrecked as Bitcoin rose following Trump attack on loser Fed chair. I love how This is exactly it. Loser Fed chair. Perfect. Powell they're talking about. Bitcoin topped 88,000 at one point Monday. Its highest point since late March before losing some ground. Actually, it regained that ground right now. Look, for $88,500 as we speak. She's making another comeback, folks. Loser Fed chair. Bitcoin's price rose again, even as stocks fell, spurring many traders who bet against the asset to close their positions. They got wrecked again. Didn't they learn the first time and the second time and the third time? Don't be betting on anything with margin, folks. Use your own money. Have a long-term perspective on this. It's not a buy and sell tomorrow type of thing. If you want to buy something and sell it tomorrow, start with, like I was saying at the beginning of the show, sure, take 1-2% of your, 95% should be in Bitcoin. That's my stance. Maybe a little bit in Solana, maybe a little bit in XRP. You've got that FOMO. You don't want to miss out on maybe a big thing, and XRP explodes to $100, and you're like, shit, I could have had it at $2. Damn, right? Let's face it. I'll be honest. I do the same thing. But for these little ish coins, 1% of your stash, 2% maybe, sure, go for it. But in no circumstance should you be borrowing to do this, as far as I'm concerned. Certainly not on margin. Use your own money. Win with your own money. Lose with your own money. Long term, if you have a long time horizon, it has been proven with Bitcoin, you will always win. Historically, if you have held over 4 years, you're in the green. So just think about that. I get it. If you're 90 years old, maybe, having a long time horizon on Bitcoin isn't the thing for you. Then, yeah, you should be in bonds. You should be in gold. But if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s, and you've got some time to wait, have this long time horizon. With the little shit coins, of course, take it, make your 1,000% and flip the shit out of it. Get out of there. It used to be where these meme coins, for example, they would come out, they'd go up for, 2-3 months. You'd have time to get your money in, get your money out. Then it got shorter and shorter. Then it was 2 weeks. They came out, they pumped for a couple weeks. Then it was 2 days. Then it was 1 day. Now it's like 2 hours. Not even. Now it's like 45 minutes. You better get in and get out. If your little shit coin goes up 1,000, 2,000, 5,000%, get the fuck out of there. That's what I would do. So, over the past 24 hours, investors have liquidated more than 97 million in Bitcoin short positions, according to data provider CoinGlass. Investors have closed nearly 180 million in short positions for all cryptocurrencies. Damn. Why the shorting position? Why so bearish? You're losing your shirt, folks. The price of the biggest digital coin by market cap was recently trading at roughly 86,800, gaining 2.7% over the past 24 hours. CryptoMarket's data provider CoinGecko showed that was down from over 88,200 shortly after U.S. market opened, its highest point since the end of March, but still well above the 75,000 mark, to which it sank earlier this month as investors fretful about U.S. President Donald Trump's erratic trade policies and other macroeconomic uncertainties veered away from the riskier assets. Traders shorting on the price of Ethereum, the second largest digital asset by market value, have closed more than 26 million in shorts bet over the last 24 hours. Ethereum was recently trading for $1,624, roughly flat over the past 24 hours, although that represents an improvement over its recent performance. Ethereum has declined more than 20% over the past month, even as Bitcoin and Solana have gained over the same time period. Yeah, I stay away from Ethereum. I just don't like how they have that infinite supply. Solana was recently down more than a percentage point on Monday, but Doge, the 8th biggest cryptocurrency, rose about 2.5%, while XRP was up just around 1% amid volatile market activity. U.S. stocks were trading lower Monday morning on New York time, with the Dow Jones Industrial, S&P 500, and NASDAQ all dropping by about 3%. Meanwhile, traditional safe haven gold continued its recent pattern of setting new highs and was recently trading for more than $3,420 an ounce. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have largely been trading in line with stocks, but has recently shown signs of decoupling to behave more like a risk-off asset. Trump has repeatedly unsettled the market since beginning his second term in January and in recent weeks by ordering global trade tariffs and scaling back on many of them, but has ratcheted up tariffs on China, which has reciprocated. Yeah, you see this. Trump has repeatedly unsettled markets since the beginning of his second term. I've been saying all along that this is just a negotiating tactic. Meanwhile, I mean, how is it some dude, right here, some dude, an IT guy, right, who, sure, I've read a lot of books about, basic economics but how is it that I've been calling this as a negotiation tactic from the beginning, but yet the entire stock market, and as we know, the 80% of the stock market's wealth, 50% of the stock market's wealth is from the 80% of the wealthiest people, right? Or that might be the other way around. I think it's 80% of the 50%. So how are these wealthy, what should be, affluent, intelligent people freaked out from Trump saying he's going to put tariffs? Like, am I the only one who saw through this? I know my viewers saw right through this. We've been talking about it since the beginning. Everybody else is freaking out. We, the people, have been buying the dip. That's what I can say. Monday's stock market sell-off comes after Trump attacked Fed Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. He's such a nerd. Saying that the central bank boss was a major loser. Good for him. President Trump last week complained that Powell had not lowered interest rates quickly enough and threatened to replace him, an unprecedented move for a U.S. president that many analysts believe would further roil markets and send the economy into a tailspin. Yeah, see, with that I agree. If he dumped Powell, it would. As we saw, just with the talk of tariffs, people are freaking out and taking all their money out and, putting it into gold, for example. Taking their money in and not even putting it into bonds because they're shit in their pants. And if they dumped the Fed chair, then I feel like maybe it would be good for the Bitcoin, but it definitely would not be good for the traditional financial market. If this did happen, I would see Bitcoin and the traditional financial market tanking again, but Bitcoin taking the lead and almost decoupling pretty fast from stocks pretty quickly and jumping back up and then taking off from there, because we want the Fed out. We don't like the Feds, folks. All they do is debase money, but that debasing of the money makes Bitcoin more profitable. For example, if let's say, let's call Bitcoin, just for ease of math, let's say it was at $100,000 right now, and the Feds doubled the money supply, right? So that would make the US dollar half as powerful as it currently is. It would reduce the buying power by half. So that would then effectively make the price of Bitcoin $200,000, right? Whatever you do to the dollar, the same thing is going to happen to the Bitcoin. And that's without Bitcoin actually changing price at all. It would just be reacting to the price of the dollar. Regardless, to get rid of Powell, a lot of things have to happen. They can't just, I was reading an article, they can't just dump him because they don't like him. They can't even dump him because he's doing a bad job. It has to be negligence of some sort, and it has to be, in today's day and age, it has to be socially unacceptable for something, If he does something socially unacceptable, then they could dump him. But it even stated that even if he's doing a shitty job, they can't get rid of him. Now, there are some other court cases that Trump currently has about getting rid of other departments based on lack of necessity, I guess, obsolete departments that he wants to get rid of. And of course, they brought him to court. So if he wins those cases, though, that could certainly open the door for him dumping Powell as well, based on the precedents that those cases that are brought to the Department of Justice. I think it's actually going to Supreme Court. If he wins those, then he certainly could try to do the same with Powell. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. Why? Because in approximately a year, Powell's term ends, and a new Fed chair is going to come in, and I'm sure Trump is going to make sure that this new Fed chair is going to be more both Trump-friendly and crypto-friendly. And I think they are going to be doing smarter things. One of the smart things that Powell needs to do, when you think about Europe's already lowered interest rates in the past year 7 times, right? And it looks like they're going to lower them again and again and again and again. Powell hasn't done jack all. Now, toward the end of this year, $9.5 trillion of U.S. debt comes due for renewal, refinancing, toward the end of this year. So they need that interest rate to be low. If it's not a low interest rate when they refinance this debt, $10 trillion flipping dollars, U.S. is screwed. They already paid $1 trillion in interest on the debt in 2024. So if they refinance at a high rate, then it's not going to be $1 trillion in interest next year. It's going to be $1.5 trillion, and it's just going to get so out of hand, even more out of hand than it already is. So Powell will have to reduce interest rates, and nobody wants to come out and admit this. I don't know why I don't hear it in the news, how we have to refinance $10 trillion and we need a low interest rate to do it. No one comes out and says it. Why? Because they need to hide the fact that they're $37 trillion in debt. Right? Like, to me, I open the show with that every single day. We talk about the U.S. national debt every single day, and I do it on purpose because this is one of the most important things in the financial markets today. But when you listen to mainstream media, you will never, maybe once in a month or once every 6 months, they might mention something like, U.S. debt, but they don't talk about the number. I think once I've heard on TV the 36 $37 trillion debt. So this is what's happening. I mean, Trump is telling them to lower the interest rates. Why? Because he needs to refinance this debt this year of $10 trillion bucks. A third of the U.S. debt almost, or I guess closer to a quarter, needs to be refinanced, and it needs to be done at a low interest rate. Powell, I really don't see any reason for him not dropping the rate, except that he wants to defunk the U.S. Now, getting back to Europe, they keep reducing the rates. Fine. They need to do that because they're going to be giving more money to Ukraine, right? So in order to do that, they need to borrow. They need to borrow at a low interest rate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. States are not putting more money into Ukraine. However, they need to put the money into this debt. They need these low interest rates. Let's see what happens. Let's move on. We can't talk about this story all day, but effectively, everybody got wrecked, folks. So you should not be betting against the biddy. If the Bitcoin goes down, perfect. Then you can get it on sale. But don't sell your Bitcoin. Number one rule, even Trump came out and said, he even knew the number one rule in Bitcoin, never sell your Bitcoin. So a bunch of people got wrecked, as we see here. What was it? $180 million in short positions got wrecked in the past 24 hours. So don't short. Don't buy stuff on margin. When the price goes down, buy the dip. Simple. Easy strategy, folks. Hold on for long term. Don't look at daily moves. Don't look at, 1 day, 2 weeks, even a week, even a month. I mean, overall, the prices of traditional financial objects and crypto go up and down every single day. Every day. Up one day, down the next day. Up 10%, down 30%, up 15%, down 10%, up 40%. Like, it's a seesaw every single day. Do not look at it that way, right? Look at the long-term perspective, long-term approach, and then things will completely change for you. Again, I've said it a few times in this broadcast, take a couple of percent, put it in these little shit coins, take a chance, buy them when they're low. Hopefully they go up 200%, 500%, 10,000%, and you're laughing. And these, maybe you want to take a short perspective. Maybe you want to say to yourself, what I do is I say, I'm never going to lose a penny on this account. And I'll day trade it. I'll trade it sometimes, it's a very tiny fraction compared to my Bitcoin, for example, right? But I'll trade it 3 times, 5 times a day. I don't give a crap. I'll buy it. I'll watch that little 1 minute chart. I'll watch the 5 minute chart. And when the price goes down on a good asset, not some little shit coin that's here today, gone tomorrow, right? A reasonable asset. When it goes down 20, 30%, you know that it's going to go back up again. So that's the time I jump in. I let it go up again. I dump it. I let it go down. I buy it. I let it go up. I dump it. And sometimes this happens 2-3 times in a week, in a day, pardon me. And other times, like right now, I've been in a sit and hold position for about a week. I did it with XRP, and you know what? It's been going sideways. So first time I really tried it with XRP, it's going sideways, and that's it. I'm not going to lose anything. I'm going to wait, and eventually it's going to go up. And if it takes a few days, or if it takes a few weeks, or it takes a couple months, fair enough, right? I'm still in the positive, but it's this sideways move. I need it to go up to where I was before, and once it does, I'll dump it. Then I'll get into something maybe even more risky, right? But again, this is like, 2%, 1%, 3% of, your good account. and your good account, I mean Bitcoin, I mean potentially Solana and XRP, but primarily Bitcoin. And everything else, I personally consider to be shitcoin. I mean, I do like Algorand. I do like Injective. They're good. They have a relatively small supply compared to some of the other coins, and they do have some utility and some upside. So, but other than those, there's no way. I'm taking 1% and putting it in the shit coins, and I'm waiting for the banana zone to come, for the frickin' market to sweep right up, and ideally, I'm in. I will be in 100% with my regular account with Bitcoin and everything else, and hopefully it goes up to 2x, 3x, 5x. Some of these things, XRP, who knows, 20x, 50x, and then this little shit account. You hope that it goes up 5,000%, and you start with $200-300 and you end up with 20 grand or 100 grand. This is kind of my thought process. I have a long-term idea. I'm not touching my biddy. If I pull out, it's going to be at the cycle peak, which traditionally has been end of October, November, the year after the halving. So in this case, the halving was last year. And the cycle peak, if we go based on history, should be around October or November this year. Now, it might be extended. I think it will be extended this time around with all this, tariff and sideways movement. But again, if, let's say the price in Bitcoin goes to $300,000 and I get out a little early at 250, I can't be upset with something like that, as long as it certainly turns and goes down after that, because then you'll freaking be pissed. I did that with when I first got into crypto, when I didn't have hardly a penny to my name. It was Ethereum, right? Believe it or not, yeah. Again, I didn't know much, but I knew Ethereum was $150, and I knew the price was going to go up, and I killed myself. I couldn't afford $150, believe it or not, back then, and I bought it, and one Ethereum, right? I was like, also maybe scared, but I saw the price was going up and up and up, and it got to $1,500, and I was yeah, sell, right? Of course, I flip it right away, and then the price continues to go up to $5,000. I was like, geez. So I learned from that, and always learn from your mistakes, friends. And this time, I'm not going to sell too early, but I'm also not going to sell too late. If things get, let's say, it goes to $300,000, and I'm still holding on at $300,000, and things start then, falling off a cliff, and it goes, I sell at 250 on the other side of the cliff, I still won't be unhappy. Like, you have to. There's a difference between unrealized gains and realized gains. You can be ecstatic as hell, and be up, hundreds of %, but until you sell, it's still an unrealized gain. So you have to be on top of these things. Play it smart. Have this long-term approach. If you're going to try and predict the cycles, do some charting. We've done it before in some other shows. We've gone pretty much exactly where these halving cycles start, where they end, the percentages that the price has gone up from the time of the actual halving event until the cycle peak. We'll go over it again in a future show, but not very difficult to do. A good app is the Trading View. You've got lots of options in there on the left-hand bar, where you can check out and draw right on the graph historical patterns, and it really will help you out. Right now, what's helping me out is an excerpt from the Satoshi papers. The headline: Self-Sovereignty and Political Philosophy. I read this a couple times earlier, and this guy's bang on so many years ago, and this is exactly what we're experiencing now. The excerpt from the Satoshi papers explores how self-sovereignty challenges centralized power in a world drifting towards surveillance and control. Yep. The story does not end well. Without principled political renewal, stemming from the fundamental root of a self-sovereign political philosophy, we should expect an intensification of surveillance and control and a normalization of war. We must actively choose liberty and peace if we are to thrive. There's no policy of total war, containment, or world policing that does not end in catastrophe. For political sovereignty to have purchase, it must come from the ground up and be appropriately exercised in light of what can be expected of such things at various scales. This is a significant undertaking and not one that will be settled in a collection of essays, reinvigorated political parties, or technological capabilities. The ground-up legitimacy of a politics worth its salt requires functioning societies and the sovereign individuals who bring them to life as heirs of tradition and agents of the future. The tension between tradition and science that fuels the progress of civilizations must be taken up seriously as the engine of renewal. New common knowledge adds to the common sense of a society. This often makes some prior arrangement imperative, but in doing so, it opens up the possibility of transforming something that was simple, taken for granted before. Satoshi Nakamoto's 2008 white paper and 2009 code were assertions of individual sovereignty explicitly motivated by the banker bailout of the era. They called the banker revolution into the question by building a counter-infrastructure in the world and allowing the game theory behind its adoption to act as a social forcing function around matters of wage, value, savings, debasement, and human right to transact. The open illustration of the supernatural social infrastructure that is the Bitcoin protocol and token is a Hayekian, sly, roundabout moment of possibility that creates and motivates common knowledge where previously there was none. This acts as a one-way door, removing the possibility of naive participation in variously despotic system functioning as self-evident norms. The removal of naivety around such things as the Cantillon effect, sovereign debt reserve assets, and the confidence games and social consensus around fiat currencies, and their debasement necessarily moves populations toward common knowledge regarding the civic and civil systems of control that have become devastatingly effective in curtailing, if not criminalizing, essential liberty. If we are to avoid the worst ramifications of the return of aristocracy that has been underway since the 1970s, we must risk knowing these things and building what is next. That is what is at stake. Damn! Now talk about preaching. Satoshi. The Gospel of Satoshi. So the Satoshi paper is now available at the Bitcoin magazine store. You can order your paperback today or pre-order the limited Liberty edition shipped. So, this was just an excerpt from these Satoshi papers, but I found it very interesting. And I mean, hopefully I did a good job in presenting the story there. I did my best, but, it begins very dark. The story does not end well. Without principled political renewal stemming from the fundamental root of a self-sovereign political philosophy, we should expect an intensification of surveillance and control and a normalization of war. Fuck, right? So, love it. I have no affiliation with any of these people here. If you want to buy the book, get it. There's probably a very good possibility that if you do a search for this, you could probably find it online on YouTube. Someone's bought it and posted it and maybe narrated it like me. But this was just a little tiny couple paragraph section that they posted online, which I really enjoyed. And facts, folks. Stuck to the facts. And, we must actively choose liberty and peace if we are to thrive. There is no policy of total war containment or world policing that does not end in catastrophe, right? That's a good introduction, let me tell you. Well, folks, let me know what you think. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Remember that money is everywhere, folks. Money is abundant. It is time that's scarce. So spend your time wisely. There's $900 trillion in assets around the world. So get out there and grab yours. Use your time wisely. I read these books while I'm driving. I don't even read these books. Pardon me. I listen to these books while I drive. I have a whole bunch of books posted in the comments section. You guys should go through them. You will get a good understanding of basic economics, some trading, some, defeating the banks. I'm not talking about bringing down the banks. I'm talking about using the banking system to your advantage, not disadvantage. They're good books. It starts, the very first book, I think, is the Bitcoin Standard. And despite the name of it, I highly recommend you give it a listen because it will teach you the basics of money, where it came from, why do we even have money. It's all in this book. A great, great book. And certainly it'll teach you a lot about Bitcoin and where it will go, where it currently is, and where it's going in the future. And you'll probably want more Bitcoin after you read it, let me tell you. And then some other good books. What do I have in here? I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. Amazing, amazing book. Which, again, will teach you to stop allowing the banks to take advantage of you in so many different ways and start using them instead of them using you. The Millionaire Fast Lane, fucking great book by MJ DeMarco. I've read all these at least 2 to 3 times. Great book. It'll really put you in the mindset of, what am I really doing with my life? 99% of the people are sitting in the slow lane, and then there's guys like this MJ DeMarco who kind of gives you the goods on how to do it, is make it as rich as in, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and going from literally, eating noodles out of a can to, 10, 20, $30 million man. So a good book. Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Awesome book. Again, it'll keep you away from the rat race. It's a great one. I also have Rich Dad, Poor Dad in there. It's the number one economics book for a reason. It's a good story more than anything. He doesn't really tell you how to do much except, paying yourself first, ultimately. Like, stop paying the government taxes and instead open up a corporation. If you, for example, you open up a corporation, you're sheltered from the tax man. Let's say you make $1 million. Well, then you spend $1 million on the corporation, and then what's left to pay tax? If you made $1 million and you spent $1 million, well, you have zero left. And how much tax are you paying on zero? Zero. So this is how the ultra rich are getting away with these, when they start asking Trump, where's your taxes? Where's your taxes? And he shows it and he didn't pay any tax. It's because they make the rules for the rich. And then when the rich take advantage of it, then they complain, well, what's he doing? Well, they're your frickin' rules, idiots. So some good books. I'll add some more books to this in the future. But it's a good one. If you haven't checked it out, start with the Bitcoin Standard. I have links in there to the free audiobook on YouTube for all these things. And then, of course, I have, out of respect, right, I've got the link to the author's site. I've got the link to the Amazon if you want to actually buy the book. But for starters, again, I listen in the car. YouTube, it's free. I'm doing two things at once. I'm using my time wisely. I'm not sitting there listening to, the same Zeppelin, Floyd playlist, every frickin' day, right? Which I was doing for years, but no, a couple of years ago I put that to an end, and I basically read books that are going to help me. Spiritual books, meditation, hypnosis, certainly, not while you're driving, but information about ancient arts, ancient information, hidden knowledge, the world of information, knowledge, text. It's there. There's so much on YouTube that's free. You can effectively, if you didn't know, and I learned this from my kid, any book that you want, you can pretty much find it on YouTube for free. Because I was buying things, on Amazon, and he's like, oh, that exact same thing is free on YouTube. I'm like, what? So I searched it up. The Bitcoin Standard. My trick is I just type in the book name, The Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean, Ammous. Full audiobook. And voila. It's not just once. It's like 10 different people have it posted. So you can pretty much, there was only one book I ever looked for that I really couldn't find. Fair enough. But any book you want, check it out. It's there. While you're driving, listen to it. While you're doing other things, listen to it. You're doing the laundry at home. It's going to take you half an hour. You could polish off a little bit of a book. You have to go to the washroom every day, right? There's 10, 15 minutes every single day. Like, the time that people waste nowadays is incredible. So, again, use your time wisely, and you can be doing two things at once and expanding your mind instead of wasting your time, right? That's the good way to put it. Save more money than you earn at all times, folks. Stay in the green. If you start making more money, start saving more money. Don't start spending more money. And start saving and investing when you're young. And ideally, you can retire when about your 40s and maybe 45. If you have a great idea, you don't know what to do, start. That's what to do. Even if you're not ready, start today, and things will slowly come together for you. You might fail at first, but even if you fail, you're going to learn from your mistakes, and the next time you try, things are going to get better, and you're going to succeed. And the biggest thing you gain from trying, and even trying and failing, is having the satisfaction of you actually giving this an attempt rather than this regret that you never gave it a shot. And you'll always live in this regret if you don't actually go through with it. Even if you fail, you're better off to try and fail than you are to not try at all. Folks, here at Crypto News Global, you don't only listen and watch the show, you are the show. So please do me a favor, share and spread the word. I think we have fun here. We go through some good topics, and most of all, we learn about financial literacy. I am hopefully on a path to have between 500 and 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And it would be great if you join me on that journey. So please, if you enjoyed the show, like, share, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you on the next stream. So, folks, thank you so much for joining, and have a fantastic night.